lot of you. I know there was a lot of people in here that donated to my campaign. You shared my campaign ad and you supported me, and that really helped us. As Jeff said, we raised actually close to $8.4 million for a race that nobody thought we could win. So we were excited about that. If you didn't know, we ran in Maryland's Congressional District number 7, and that encompasses Baltimore City, Baltimore County, and Howard County as well. And so Baltimore County is kind of red, not by much, but you know, they get it. And then you have Howard County, that's a little blue, but still they're listening. But in Baltimore City, we knew that that was going to be quite a battle. Deep blue, yes, for over 50 years, one-party mob rule, the Democrats. Yeah. It was tough. But, you know, when I first moved to Baltimore City and I had my nonprofit Potential Me, I did workforce development. So we were helping women get back into the workforce after incarceration, homelessness, and rehabilitation. And so I'm all about second chances, right? And I do believe people do deserve a second chance. Believe it or not, as I was working with some of the women, we were working with some of the career centers that were with the mayor's office. And we could tell that there were a lot of people within City Hall that didn't really like the fact that we were getting people employed. And I thought that was weird, right?
Right.
And so here, you know, I wasn't paying attention to politics a whole lot. But at this point, I'm starting to look around and I'm thinking, now why would they not want us to get these people employed? If you didn't know, our former mayor, Catherine Pugh, she was actually indicted, just like our state's attorney right now, believe it or not. She was indicted for pay to play. And if you didn't see, because it was kind of hush-hush, the job training center that she had was actually raided by the FBI. And that was the same job training center that we were trying to work with. And so, you know, the finding still hasn't come out. And I've been waiting and trying to figure out what it was. But I do believe it was kind of like a shell company kind of situation, right? It was a nonprofit connected to the mayor's office, and they were getting all this grant and funding, but there was never anybody there. And I thought, this is just so weird, right? Yeah. So I'm still waiting to see what happens with that. But when you start to dig into what's going on in Baltimore City and you realize all the corruption, I started then going on Twitter and social media platforms and kind of calling it out a little bit. And this is when I still just had my nonprofit. So at that time, my husband was like, well, why don't you get more involved then, since you're such a big loudmouth about it, right? And I said, all right, I'll get more involved. Believe it or not, I actually went down to Capitol Hill, and I was a volunteer. And as a volunteer, we would help basically give tours, right, to high school students and others that would come into town. And you had a staffer badge. And there was this little group called Politichicks. I don't know if you guys ever heard of it. Politichicks, yeah. So they have a chapter in every state. Anne Marie Morrell, she's the one with Dr. Gina Loudon. You might know her. They're the ones that started this. And they said, Kim, since you're in D.C., do you want to write for our blog site, Politichicks? And I was like, well, yeah, this would be great. Right? So I start writing for the blog site. And then I was like, well, since I'm here on Capitol Hill, I was down there twice a week, I said I should try to get some interviews. That would be really cool, right? So I had my little volunteer badge, but it looked just like the staffer badge. So I was like, wow, I can really go anywhere I want. Right? So I'm going around, and I'm like, who's really good? And at this time, this is when the Benghazi committee hearings were going on. And I was just in awe of Congressman Trey Gowdy. Do you guys remember Congressman Trey Gowdy? Yes, and he would be grilling them, and I'm like, yeah, get him. And so I would go and actually sit in on the hearings because, again, the volunteer badge looked like a staffer badge. So I would just go in, I'm listening, and I'm like, wow, this guy's really good. So one day I just kind of walked down the hallway in the Longwood building, and I'm like, you know, I'm just going to knock on his door and see if I can interview him for Politichicks. So I knock on the door, and his staff is all just standing there, his chief of staff, everybody. I'm like, hi. They're like, hi. I'm like, so I'm Kim Klacik, and I'm here to interview Congressman Trey Gowdy. And his chief of staff is like, who are you? And I was like, Kim Klacik with Politichicks. And she goes, you don't have an appointment here. And at this very moment, Congressman Trey Gowdy is walking out of his office. And he goes, and I'm sitting there, and I probably look like a deer in headlights. And I look at him, and I'm like thinking to myself, like, now it's like a celebrity coming by, right? I'm like, oh, wow, you know? And he comes by, and he goes, who are you? And I said, I'm Kim Klacik, Politichicks. And he goes, I got 10 minutes, come on. And I actually went, and I interviewed Trey Gowdy, and it was so crazy and so amazing. I posted it immediately, right? Politichicks was running the story. And we got a call from One America News. And One American News was like, how did you get Trey Gowdy? He only talks to Fox News. And I said, you wouldn't believe this. I walked in his office. And they were like, that's how you did it? I said, that's how I did it. And it was so crazy. And since then, I was actually going on One American News and then Fox News. I was then a political contributor. Just from going in there and getting the interview with Congressman Trey Gowdy. I'm like, this is America, right? Only in America can you do this. And so I always tell kids that story, especially when I'm in groups with younger folks that are thinking about getting in politics. I'm like, look, you don't believe this, but just having that initiative and just being a go-getter in these situations will put you above the rest. And you just keep going. Yeah, you keep going. You keep going. So that's where I started doing commentary work. And from there, believe it or not, I don't know if you guys remember this, but in July 2019, do you remember when President Trump got in a little fight, a Twitter beef with Congressman Elijah Cummings? Yeah. And he was talking about the trash, the rat infestation. Well, there was this girl that was going around in West Baltimore and taking videos of the trash and the illegal dumping. And then she started posting on her Twitter page and saying, can somebody get back to me because this isn't right. I know you got millions of dollars since the 2015 riots, and there shouldn't be trash on the streets. Yes. And so I'm posting it. I posted it all week long. I was copying the mayor. I was copying Congressman Cummings. And believe it or not, I got a phone call from Fox because at this point they're watching my social media. Yeah, and they're like, so the producer calls me for Fox and Friends. She goes, Kim, where are you? I was like, I'm in Baltimore. She's like, you're in America? I said, yeah. She was like, wait. You have to come in and explain what's going on. Yeah. And I was like, okay, right? And so I go down to the DC studio. I go on air and I talk about it. They're showing the videos. It's like a split screen, right? They're showing the videos. I get back into my car. I was like, well, that was fun, you know. I get back in my car, and all of a sudden I get all these text messages, and my phone's blowing up. And I'm like, well, I'm driving, so I shouldn't be doing this, but what's going on? And I start seeing it, and everyone's like, President Trump was watching. Trump is watching. Trump is tweeting your name. Trump is this, Trump is that. I was like, wait, what? So I actually had to pull off. You know, 295, there's like nowhere to pull off, right? So I had to take an exit to get off. And I'm watching, and I'm looking at it, and now he's tweeting at Congressman Elijah Cummings, saying, we sent all of this money to Baltimore, and you can't pick up the trash? Yes. Thank you. And he's calling him out, and I'm like, yes, finally, yes. So then he starts repeating some of the words. It was verbatim with one of the women in West Baltimore that I interviewed, and it was a black woman. And so he repeated her words verbatim in his tweets. And then all of a sudden, he was racist, right? He was so racist. How dare he say rat infested? How dare he say these words? Meanwhile, it was exactly what that woman said in the video, and that's why he repeated it. And so you had CNN and everybody attack him. And so the story was no longer about the trash on the streets. It was about President Trump being racist. And that was the first time I realized there was fake news. That was the aha moment for me. And they completely spun the entire story. And the trash continued to sit there. And nothing got done. Well, after that, Congressman Elijah Cummings, you know, unfortunately, he passed away. And there was a special election. No. We are good Christians. So I got a lot of phone calls and people said, Kim, you know, maybe it's just time for you to give it a shot. And I said, I've never run for office. I have no idea. What do you mean? They're like, well, you walk the streets of Baltimore already. Just get out there, you know? And so I did. I ended up putting my hat in the ring, right? And I remember getting this phone call from the GOP chairman here in Maryland, and I was told Jesus Christ as a Republican could not win that seat. And I said, I understand, I get that 100%, and he goes, just, you know, maybe you shouldn't run, right? Because we don't want to exhaust any donors on that seat. Please just don't run. And I said, well, I already told my family, so I'm going to run, I'm going to do it. I know it probably won't be good, but I'll try it. So we did the special election. Thank goodness I still had the contacts at One American News and Fox News. So we were able to announce the show on Fox, or announce the race on Fox. And we did end up raising a decent amount of money. The special election was tough. We did not win it. Congressman Kwesi Mfume won at that time. And then, of course, you know, the general was right behind it. And so we're just going to give it another shot. and we went for another run. Yeah, we did. So at this time, thank you. At this time, we ran for a good, year and a half, I feel like. It was a lot. So at this time, I said, all right, we're going to give it a good go. I then get a phone call from Benny Johnson. You guys know the Turning Point kids, Charlie Kirk, Benny Johnson. Yeah. So I get a phone call from Benny Johnson. He goes, Kim, I really love your message. I think I can give you a campaign ad that will really just take it there. And I said, all right, white boy, come on to Baltimore. Let's see what you got, right? He comes to Baltimore, and he's like, all right, look, just hear me out, right? I don't know if you guys ever seen Benny, but he's so cute with his little glasses. Yeah. I was like, all right, come on, let's go. So he goes, all right, what I need you to do is I need you to show up in sweatpants, hiking boots, and just be ready to go. And I'm sitting there, and I get off the phone, and I'm like, thanks. First of all, I don't own sweatpants and hiking boots. But I'm just going to go dressed as me, right? I'm going to go dressed as me. So I get there, and this is a commercial shoot day. I get out of the car, and Benny looks at me, and he goes, oh my God, what are you wearing? And so I had on my red dress and my red high heels, and I was like, first of all, this is a really killer outfit. Secondly, I love it, and this is me. And he goes, all right, well, thank you. He was like, all right, let's figure it out. Let's figure it out. And so we start walking down the street. We had already talked about the script and the lines and everything like that. We're walking down the street, and believe it or not, and this is why you say, just things happen. It's just so weird how some things happen, how some things come in life. We're walking down the street, and the very first part of the ad that we did, I don't know if you guys remember, but we're walking past a liquor store, and we're trying to get across the street as fast as ever, because the cars don't actually stop at that light, okay? And this is Baltimore, okay? Some lights you stop at, some lights you don't, right? And so we're walking down the street, and I'm like, do you care about Black Lives? And they're like, go, 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 because the cars were coming, there were trucks, right? And I'm going. And I go, and everyone's like, now they watch the video, they were like, why are you walking so fast? I'm like, I'll explain later. So we're walking down, and all of a sudden this white SUV just stops in the middle of the road. And she's like, excuse me. And I'm looking in the window. I wear glasses, so I can't really see, and because I don't like to wear them. And so I'm looking, and I can't see, and she goes, come over here, please. And I go up to the car, and it was Maya Rock'n'More Cummings, Elijah Cummings' widow. Wow. And she had already lost a primary to Kwesi Mfume. Remember, she was in the primary as well. Wow. And I said, oh, hi. And she was like, are you doing your campaign ad? And I said, yes. And she said, well, I hope you kick his ass. And I said, well, thank you. And from that conversation, and we had just got started, but from right there, I just felt super confident and super good about what we were doing. And, well, thank you. It was hot. It was 106 degrees that day. It was awful. But I was like, all right, you know what? That's a sign. We're going to keep going. We're gonna make this the best video ever. And so from there, we actually shot a part of the scene where we're on the roof of like an auto mechanic's place. The roof was actually made of tar. It was so hot, the tar was melting.
Oh my God.
Yes, and so I was like sticking to yes, it was awful. So those heels are no more. Okay.
Oh, no.
So we got through the day, and Benny Johnson said, we're going to edit it, we're going to make it great, don't you worry about it. So they actually, like maybe 2 weeks later, they get the video back to us. I look at it, and I'm disappointed. I look at it, and I'm like, Benny, it's me walking down the street. I was like, who's going to like this? He's like, Kim, I'm telling you, it's the truth. People want to hear the truth right now. President Trump has a lot of people fired up about being America first. Yes. And he's like, people are ready for a change, even in inner cities. And I said, all right, Benny, you seem to know what you're talking about. And so they put out the video, and believe it or not, they had it where they put it out at the same time as the DNC convention. I don't know if you guys remember this. But it was the same moment where Michelle Obama was speaking. And they did it purposely. And I was like, when they told me this, I'm like, I can't beat Michelle Obama. Are you kidding me? Right? And he's like, nope, trust me on this. Right? And I was like, all right, I guess I'll trust you. And I'm sitting at home, I'm just waiting for the video to drop. We knew for a fact it was coming out by that minute, right? it drops and it just takes off. And I could not believe it. I could not believe it. Benny Johnson, the kids at Turning Point, they were correct. They had it all figured out. Those kids have a great formula. They know what they're talking about. It's amazing. So we were very excited. I think within the first 24 hours, it was like 26 million views, and so many people were pushing it. And I say this because at the end of the day, I don't think we would have pushed it as hard or been where we were if it wasn't for President Trump. President Trump believed wholeheartedly in our commercial. And with his family, right, we had Don Jr. that endorsed us. Eric Trump met us at Trump Hotel. It was just a whirlwind after that. And that happened on August 17th. And remember, we had until November 3rd to get our act together. So it was the race of our lives. And if you guys look over this way, I don't know if he's still here. Well, Marcus is here somewhere.
She's over there.
Marcus? He's over there. Oh. So Marcus actually grew up in West Baltimore. If you guys want to say hi to Marcus. Marcus actually ran our street team. And thanks to Marcus, we ended up getting 92,000 votes in our district. Yeah. In Baltimore City alone, we flipped 14,000 voters. There were Democrats, 14,000 that voted for us. And actually in West Baltimore, where we shot that campaign ad, we flipped West Baltimore. They voted for me, and they voted for President Trump. I'm sure it pained the New York Times to have to do that story. But I actually have it framed at my house. But it was amazing, and I know that there's a lot of people out there that do want to change, right? It's just going to take time. When I look at the political landscape right now, and I look at what's going on in this country, I think a lot of people are starting to realize that the Democrats don't really have their best interest at heart. Now, of course, many of us in this room have always known that. But now more people are starting to realize it that usually vote Democrat, right? My mom, for instance, is a Democrat. And she is. She's a Democrat. She came to my election night party. She's like, well, you're my daughter, so. You know. But she's not a fan of President Trump. But President Biden gets in with VP Kamala Harris. And she was like, well, this will be interesting. We got our first black female VP. Within like 2 weeks, she calls me. She goes, why does she keep laughing? She's like, what is so funny? I don't get it. And I'm like, because Mom, she wasn't a good choice, right? I talk about it all the time. I said, he had 3 choices. You guys remember? It was Kamala Harris, Karen Bass, and Susan Rice. He chose the worst one. I said, we have one job, okay? And so my mom and so many people are looking at this administration and thinking, what have we done? And I call it Biden's remorse, because I think a lot of people do have that. And so now that we head into November, I think a lot of people are paying attention to what's going on in this country. And yes, and hopefully that lasts. I do look at it and say, I wish President Trump was still on social media. I think that would be very helpful because, like I said, because of President Trump, he was able to raise my profile in my race, and he did that for so many others as well. And we see a lot of great people doing a lot of great things on Capitol Hill today. Do you guys know Congressman Byron Donalds from Naples, Florida? Yes. He's doing a great job. Burgess Owens from Utah is doing a great job. I love Lauren Boebert. She's like, she is. She's a firecracker. Yes. Madison Cawthorn. There was a group of us that were all together in 2020. And not every one of us made it, but we still support one another. And that's great. And so when we look at the Democrat Party, and they have, the progressives like the squad, right? I think now we are building our own squad. Yes. Because if you look at what's going on at Capitol Hill, I know a lot of people are like, well, Marjorie Taylor Greene says too much. Well, guess what? So does AOC, right? We need somebody to combat the nonsense, right? Everybody has a job. Everybody has a lane. There are workhorses and show ponies. That's just how it is. I didn't make the rules, right? There are going to be some people that get loud and some people that are doing the work. That's just how it is. And we have to make sure that we continue to build on our team. So like I said, in 2020, I think we got a lot of people in Congress that are doing a great job right now. Right now, we also have a PAC called Red Renaissance. We have about 23 candidates that are on the ballot here going into November. As many of you guys know, in Maryland, we've been waiting for redistricting to happen. What a nightmare. But finally, we know where people are running, right? Finally, we know where people live, and we can really hit the ground running. But we also have candidates in New Jersey, in Florida, Arizona, Georgia. We have candidates everywhere that are really doing a great job. I say this all the time, and I'm pretty sure you guys understand because we're in a blue state. Well, it's actually purple. It's just been gerrymandered, I think. But yeah, that's pretty much. But at the end of the day, we know what it's like to have Democrats really chip away at our districts. And when some people say, Kimberly, I can't believe you ran that race knowing that it was unwinnable, I say, you know what? They're not saying that on the Democrat Party. They're not saying that. They didn't tell Stacey Abrams not to chip away at Georgia. They're not telling Beto O'Rourke not to chip away at Texas. And so we have to learn to play both the short game and the long game. And that's what we're doing in Baltimore. So just so you guys know, we kept $1 million in the bank because we're fiscally conservative. And we are going to run again.
Yeah.
Yeah, we are going to run again.
Oh, wow.
If you listen to WBAL, I'm very proud. We just got a show on WBAL from 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. And so we're actually able to speak to people in Baltimore City Monday through Friday. And so that's what it's about, right? We have grassroots efforts. We have Marcus and our team still in the streets every day. We're feeding the homeless. We're at different churches. It's going to take time. It's going to take time. And so we're willing to put in the effort. In the meantime, we're going to support great candidates like Ms. Schifanelli, like Dan Cox. We have people out there right now that can win right now. And I know this for a fact. And I got in trouble, and I was telling the table here earlier. I get in trouble because I can't choose a side before the primary is over on WBAL. And the other day, they were talking about Kelly Schultz. And, well, it kind of slipped on air, but I said, you know, I'm sure she's fine. She just has the personality of a paper bag. I immediately get a text from my boss, and he goes, Kimberly. And I had it then when we came back from the commercial break. I said, but I'm sure she's great. I'm sure she's amazing. I probably just didn't have enough conversations with her.
Oh my God.
You know, I've only seen her 6 times. And so I understand what you're up against, and I think we all do. And so it's going to take a team effort, right?
Yes.
And I do believe, I think a poll came out not too long ago. It showed Governor Larry Hogan is more popular with Democrats than he is Republicans. Yeah, so I'm not going to say anything, not, you know, mean, but I will say, yes, he does have a higher approval rating in the state of Maryland. I do see that, right? And I think Kelly's going to try to ride that wave. And so I know that we have our work cut out for us, but I do think that you can make it work. I do. You have the charisma, you have the drive, you have the passion, you have the work ethic, and I know you. I know you won't give up. And so I support you 100%. You know that. You know that. Because at the end of the day, that's what it's going to take, right? At the end of the day, we need people that have the personalities, the big personalities that we see right now in the media that are winning this, right? We need that. And then we need people that actually can do the work. And we need people that actually understands the law. That would be great. Exactly. That would be great. And so it's going to take a team effort. I know that. I think you all know that as well. And that's why you're here tonight. I mean, at the end of the day, we're trying to save our country. As I say all the time, this is not the America that I recognize. Believe it or not, I am 40 years old, and I remember a country that was very, very different just 20 years ago. My parents raised me in Klacik, Maryland. We moved down from New York. My dad was actually in foster care. He ended up making it out to college and becoming an executive at IBM. And he would talk about all the time, this is the only country where you can do that. That is true. And it is true. It's the only country where you can do that. And we have to make sure that we continue to talk to people, even those in Baltimore City, that have that victim mentality, and let them know you don't have to live like this. You deserve better. You deserve freedom, and you can do more. As soon as you allow the government to step away from your life just a little bit, and that you take charge. And so we kind of push that message of school choice. That's something that we desperately need, especially in Baltimore City. We talk about the fact that police officers are amazing. I know people try to vilify the cops, but how many people do you know that will put their lives on the line for someone they've never even met? I wouldn't do it, personally, especially not in Baltimore City.
Yeah.
But that's what we're looking at, right? We have a progressive mayor, a progressive state's attorney. She's indicted right now, so we'll see what happens with that. But that's what we're dealing with. And so we need leaders to take charge that we know that are honest, that are going to do the work, and that it's going to support we the people. And that's why, I support you 100%. And Dan Cox, of course. And don't let anybody get you down. You keep going forward. When social media tries to censor you, wear it like a badge of honor. Because it's going to happen. Because the people, unfortunately, a lot of people don't want to hear the truth. And I always say this, and I'll end with this. To get something you never have, you're going to have to do something you've never done. And that's how I felt when I ran for office in Baltimore.
Very good.
I've never even considered doing something like that. But I knew that I had to. I have a 5-year-old daughter myself. She's just like me, unfortunately for the world. She's just like me. Yeah. She loves President Trump. She does. She loves President Trump, and luckily she goes to a Catholic school, where they embrace her and her views. It's so funny, right? Because she's in kindergarten. But she loves to talk about politics, and so I have high hopes for this girl. But I do hope that more parents have those conversations about hard work and what it takes to really make it and succeed in this world, and we invest in our children, and stop talking about things like CRT or social gender studies or things that we shouldn't be investing in at all, right? What does that get you in this world? A pronoun is not something you put on your resume. I mean, they might, but it's not going to get you anywhere, right? We have to really focus on the investments, and I think education is big. And thank you so much for what you've done when it comes to the education system. Thank you so much. Now, thank you guys so much. Again, thank you for donating to my campaign. Thank you for donating to Gordana and Dan Cox. And thank you for being such patriots that you are. Thank you. Oh, you wrote this for me? Doreen wrote a speech for me.